Dragon Warrior is an absolute classic for the NES, and the Intellivision port, Dragon Quest, is about as perfect as you could expect for the system. Unlike the NES version though, it utilizes a password. Well, that password has been deciphered. Stay tuned to learn how you can make your life way easier in this awesome game. Welcome to Mike's Gaming Gala. I'm Mike, and this week we have something a bit different for you. A while ago, regular viewers will recall that I did a review of the excellent Dragon Quest published by Intellivision Collector. After that review, Michael Hayes reached out to me saying that he had cracked the password system for it and provided a PDF document on the details of how to make passwords that can give you gold, items, and even change your name. So this week, let's take a deep dive into how you can wield ultimate power by cracking the Dragon Quest password system. To start, let's look at all the characters available to be placed in a password. Each letter and symbol here has a corresponding number that we'll use to figure things out. This starts at 0 for A and works all the way up to 31 for the @ symbol. This chart is the core of everything, and we'll be referring to it constantly. Moving to a sample password, we'll go with the one that I first got in my gameplay from the review. In this password, we've just started the game, our name is Mike, and we have 0 experience, 120 gold, and a torch. Now of course, this looks pretty nonsensical. So to make things easier, we're going to look at the last character in the password first. The letter at the end is a password key, and it has a simple job of scrambling everything before it. This letter, here it's a Q, determines the offset of all the other characters. If we refer to our grid up top, we can see that the numeric value of Q is 16. If we bring this back to 0, which is A, that means we move 16 spaces down through the grid. If we hit the end of the grid, we just loop around. And if we apply this same offset to all the characters in our password, we get this. Right away, you can see things become a bit clearer, if only because we can see that the 4 characters prior to our password key are our name. When you're generating your own passwords, it makes sense to leave your key as A unless you really feel the need to make it look scrambled. Now that we've unscrambled the password, we can break each section down to what it represents. It's not super self-explanatory, but we'll go through it step by step. Here, you have your inventory slots, and up here are your herbs and extra items and keys respectively. These characters calculate your gold, with the first of them indicating your shield. These dictate your experience, with the first one also indicating your weapon. The character here is your quest progression, and last but surely the most confusing is these 2 final characters which act as checksums for the other things you may enter. We'll get to that later though. Let's begin altering things by changing our name. These 4 spaces are as simple as typing any available characters in there that you like. Let's change our name to Luke, the publisher of this game. Moving along, we have our inventory slots. These 8 characters prior to our name manage our inventory. Since we only have a torch, we can see that the first character is D, while the rest of our inventory slots are A, which as we know counts as a 0, so there's nothing there. Here are the character values that you can put into each inventory slot. For the herbs and magic keys, don't put them here as they have their own slots that we'll get to. If you put them here, they'll not only take up one of your inventory slots, but you won't be able to use them. Also, don't add in the ball of light or the tablet, as they're just a waste of an inventory slot as well. So as an example, let's give ourselves the Dragon Scale, Cursed Belt, Erdrick's Token, Fairy Flute, Fairy Water, Fighter's Ring, Rainbow Drop, and the Wing of Wyvern. That gives us E, F, G, H, I, J, L, P for our inventory, but we're not done yet. This checksum character right here is there to keep you honest with your inventory. You may need a scientific calculator to do this, but you need to add the numeric values of your 8 inventory items and then find out the remainder after division by 32, also known as the modulo or mod for short. So in this case, the total value of these items is 65. Dividing by 32, we get 2 with a remainder of 1, so 1 is what this checksum needs to be. To do this on a scientific calculator, you would enter it as 65, then press the mod button, and 32. Looking at our table, the character for 1 is B, so our checksum here needs to have a B in that slot. Okay, thus far, this hasn't been too bad, but now we're on to the first 12 characters, and things are going to get pretty complex and require much more math. In fact, this section is what made this video so long to make, but we can do this. Let's give ourselves a little more experience and a little more gold. You can increase your experience and gold by increments of 1024 units pretty easily. Starting with experience, it's as simple as incrementing the 8th character. For every character you increase here, your experience will go up by 1024 points. So B gives us 1024, C gives us 2048, D gives us 3072, and so on. The same goes for gold, albeit with the 5th character. Increment by 1024 until you're happy with the number. If you want to give yourself a bigger boost, you can head over to the first 2 characters here. The first one will be for experience and the second one for gold. Simply move the character down 2 positions on our grid, or up 16 spaces, and you'll add 32,768 to either stat. Note that you can only do this once though, as in Dragon Quest, both your experience and your gold max out at 65,535. Moving on to the 11th character in our grid, we'll give ourselves some magic keys. Right now, the value here is A, which stands for 0 on our table. You can increase this to be as many as 6 keys, but that's the maximum. Putting a value over 6 will result in an invalid password. So to give ourselves 6 keys, we would enter G here. The 10th character on our grid does the same thing, but for herbs. Again, our maximum is 6, but entering a different value won't necessarily give us a faulty password because later we'll also be using this slot to indicate extra items. For now, we'll just put a G here so that we have 6 herbs and move along. Alright, here's where things start to really get interesting. Going back to the first 2 characters that we were able to utilize for big jumps in experience and gold, these also tell us what weapon, armor, and shield we have equipped. Starting with the experience character, which we have as Q since we added 32,768 experience to our adventurer, we count up from that based on which sword we want. The values on which we need to bump this up for each weapon are here. So if we want Erdrick's sword, we would increment 5 spaces from our starting position, which brings us to V. Choosing our armor is actually split between both the experience and gold characters. Looking at this table here, we can see 4 columns and 2 rows. We'll use our experience character to tell us which row we're using. If you want something from the top row, you don't have to change anything. But let's say we want Erdrick's armor, which is in the lower row. Then we have to take our character, which is currently V, and drop it down a row on our chart, arriving at the parentheses symbol. Moving to the second character in the password, which we've also set to Q to indicate 32,768 gold, we can finish the armor selection by nudging this character once for each column we want to move to the right. Leaving it as is would keep us in column 1, giving us chainmail, but we want Erdrick's armor, so we increment our Q once to R so that we're now targeting column 2. Finally, that brings us to our shield. Here's the table for shields, consisting of 2 columns and 2 rows. If your shield is in the first column, we don't have to adjust anything. But if it's in the right column, you would move the second character 4 positions to the right. If your shield is in the top row, again, no need to adjust. But if it's in the bottom row, you would then move the second character 1 position down on our grid. Let's give ourselves the silver shield. So starting from our current value of R, that would bring us to Z. Now that we're all equipped, we can wrap up our gold and experience by inputting the smaller values. We already know that the first character increments our experience by 32,768, and that the 8th character increments our experience by 1,024. So to get smaller increments, we'll use the 7th character to adjust our experience by 32 points, and the 6th character to increment by 1. We'll set these both to their highest amount, And we'll max out the 8th character as well, setting them all to the @ symbol. Same goes for gold. We know that the 2nd character increments our gold by 32,768, and then the 5th character increments our gold by 1,024. So adjusting the 3rd character adds 32 gold per increment, and the 4th character increments by 1. We'll also set both of these to their highest amount. And why not? The 5th character can max out as well. The final thing needed from the password is our quest progress. We need to tell the game what we have and haven't done in our adventures. We're getting close to the end now, and I'm saving the big math bit for last. We know that the 10th character indicates how many herbs you have, but it and the 12th character are used to flag certain quest-related events that don't necessarily affect your inventory. First, we'll look at the 12th character. Up until now, it's been sitting happily at B. This indicates that we've taken the first step of our quest by talking with the king and opening the chests in the throne room. If we move it to the left to A, we basically reset the game. This will cause the 3 chests and the locked door in the throne room to respawn, and the king will re-deliver his opening monologue. For other checkpoints in your quest, move 4 positions to the right if you've defeated the dragon in the swamp cave. Move 1 position down if you've defeated the golem outside of Cantlin. Move 2 positions down if you've also rescued Princess Gwaelin. But make sure you also add Gwaelin's love to your inventory if you do this. Next is the 10th character. Up until now, it's been a value between A and G depending on how many herbs we wanted. Moving it 1 position down on our grid indicates that we've put on the fighter's ring. And moving it down 2 positions indicates that we've put on the cursed belt. Since we added the cursed belt to our inventory, let's go ahead and move it down 2 spots from G to W. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have the last character that needs a value. It's a 9th character of our password, and it's the hard one. The checksum that validates everything in this section, and it's not as straightforward as our other checksum. Here we go. Start with a value of 14. Add the value of your weapon, the number indicated before its name. We picked Erdrick's sword, so that's 5. Add the value of your armor, as indicated on the weapons table. We picked Erdrick's armor, so that's 3. Add the value of your shield as indicated on the shield table. We picked the silver shield, so that's 2. Now find the total of your gold. We gave ourselves a total of 65,535 gold pieces. Divide this number by 16 and then round the decimal down. 65,535 divided by 16 gives us 4,095.94. And rounding that down, we get 4,095. Which we then add to our running total, making 4,119. What we just did for gold, we need to do for experience as well. Thankfully, we gave ourselves the same amount of experience, 65,535. Divided by 16 and rounding down again, that gives us 4,095, and we add that to our 4,119 to make 8,214. Next, add the value of the character at position 12. Here we have it as B, so the value is 1. 8,214 plus 1 is 8,215. Now we can do the mod on this number to get our value. Getting our calculator out, 8,215 mod 32 equals 23. Looking at our handy character chart, the character for 23 is X. So we put that into our password at slot 9 and we're finished. All that's left now is to plug this into the password screen and sit back to enjoy our handiwork. And as you can see, it worked. We're now level 30 with full gold and experience, and all the items we gifted ourselves, yeah, they're there. Walking through the castle, and yep, we're cursed as well because we have the cursed belt. We've skipped a whole bunch of this game now, so time to enjoy kicking a slime's butt. And that, my friends, is how to crack the Intellivision Dragon Quest password. A huge thank you to Michael Hayes for his work on this. Lord knows there is no way I would have even thought to attempt anything of this sort if it hadn't been for his documentation. Michael has been cracking passwords for years. And if you go to his website, midnightblueinternational.com, you can find other hacks for games like Mega Man 4, Super Castlevania 4, Strider, and others. Michael also wants to make perfectly clear that his deciphering of this password did not in any way involve hacking or diving into the ROM's code. This was all done on the up and up. So there you have it. Make your own passwords to make things a little easier for yourself in this classic game that was expertly ported to the Intellivision. If you don't have it and you want to pick up a copy, head on over to Intellivision Collector and tell them Mike sent you. Thank you so much for watching my video. I tried something different this week and I hope you liked it. As always, I've got my information on the screen and we'll see you next time on Mike's Gaming Gala.